Listen, guys, I'm here. I'm focused. I'm ready for the show. I'm focused. There's no sidetracks. There's no distractions. Episode.
Syllabus.
Can you tell
Syllabus.
us? Are we ready?
Yes. Syllabus.
Should we say 13? I'm not. There's nothing wrong with 13.
Okay. Well, I mean, either the next episode or episode number.
Because it always has the number next to it anyway when she puts it up.
I think
Okay.
you're only if you're in a hotel is the 13 issue.
It's going to be a great show. So
Fantastic.
Or
All
if you
right. So we're back for episode number 13. And as always, we have Gunny Mathison,
grow the show.
Joe Schmidt, and our special guest today, Mike Mcentire.
In case you don't know, there's a whole list of credentials that go right here.
says
Tell
all
us
the cool
everything
stuff.
that you want.
Yeah, it'll be right underneath you there when we show all the stuff you want.
Including
What have you been up to? Yeah, Mike is $1 million rider, and we're thrilled to have him here today. And we didn't call him. He's one of the only ones we've planned ahead. We actually called you on Sunday. I think you were driving home from a horse show.
Yeah, win in Denver, right? You won Denver.
Yeah. So four days we gave him notice, and that's not like us.
and he showed up. He
We
didn't.
wait.
He didn't cancel on us.
No,
too.
he didn't cancel. He didn't cancel.
It's an honor to be here.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you. So tell us what you've been doing. We know, but tell them what you've been doing.
Well, working more than I should be at my age, but I've been enjoying it and riding some pretty nice horses and having a good time
In Texas now.
in Texas.
And you just came back from Denver, where you were the winner. And I watched both go-arounds. I didn't see that many horses in the first go-around. I saw a handful, but I saw yours, and it was stellar. Thought your horse looked really good up there.
Thank you.
Funny thing about that is I'm not sure they know, but a couple days before you're supposed to leave, he wasn't going to go. He was going to bring his motorcycle. His horse had a hot nail, and they weren't really sure that it had a hot nail yet. Huh? That's quite a roller coaster to be on, from going to I'm just going to go vacation to bringing all the trophies home.
It is. It's, when you have a nice horse and you're planning a trip and those things go wrong, and I'm sure all you guys have been there, but it can get very stressful and disappointing. We put all the work in those horses, and when it goes wrong, it's not fun. But fortunately, I took the horse to the vet, and he had a close nail. Could have had a bruise. It might not have been, even a hot nail, but it went away almost immediately. So
You don't want to call your horseshoer out on
No.
TV?
Yeah, that's right.
no, 'cause-
Wouldn't you like to
because,
throw him under that bus and
no.
just
No.
sure?
But it turned out really brought back memories. When I took hot smoking checks to the Congress, we went, put him in the stall, went to the hotel. That was in 2004, I think. And the next morning went out to ride him and got on him, and he was holding his back leg up. Had an abscess, and barely got him through. Didn't get to ride him at all till the warm-up pen before I went in the arena. But he was sound then, and wound up winning the Congress on him. But so that was kind of a coincidence. All this happened like that. And actually, I told Natalie before we left that it might be a good sign.
Yeah. No, he looked awesome in the first go. Like you were way good. How do you feel?
He felt good. I mean, he felt like, I knew he was a special horse, but you don't really know. You go horse show him what you really have. You guys know that, but he lived up to everything I was hoping he would.
Well, I talked to one of the judges today that judged it, and he said that was by far his favorite horse that he saw out there, because he was just so pleasant to see. I mean, you showed him with a big old drape in the reins, and he didn't look pressured anywhere, and he did everything you asked him to. So, I mean, at this stage, and you showed him one-handed. I mean, at this stage in the game, you didn't use him to go win that thing either. You just showed what you had. I think, from watching what I saw.
Yeah, he looked real good. And you know what impressed me is, like, that ground out there is always so fast.
Yeah.
And this year it wasn't. It looked like they had it dug up a lot deeper.
And it got deeper as the week as it went on, and those horses had to really try and adjust to get through it.
Yeah, he's one of the few horses that really handled the ground in the second. I mean, there was only a handful. I watched pretty much most of the second go around or the finals, and there was only a handful of horses that handled the ground. So
What about, I heard Denver was busy, and the times that I've been there, I mean, you had to ride at night because it was just the show pen that you could ride in. Was it tough getting your horse ready, or all the work that you brought there, all 2 horses that you brought there, I'm sure you were just inundated with just loads of work. I mean, you were just,
That's right.
was it tough to get your horse ready, or did you find it easy?
Well, I knew how it was going to be before I
Gotcha.
left, so I took 2 horses and on purpose. And
Smart man.
And I got up about 3:30 every morning, tried to go to bed early, and I could ride, and it wasn't too crowded. And there was a couple of times it was a little challenging, and we did have to ride it every night like that, but it was okay and worked out.
yeah, I haven't showed at Denver for a long time. Cade went there last year, but I used to enjoy going there because we'd stay. I don't know if you'd call it downtown, but we'd stay. What's that? There's that street there where all the homeless people hang out, and there's a bunch of cool stores, and maybe 16th or
Yeah. No, I know
something like that. There's a real cool, and we'd usually get a hotel just a couple of blocks away from there, and it was always fun to it was kind of, take a couple of horses and like you did and just hang out. But, the one thing for me about Denver is that's your option. I mean, you got to ride in the middle of the night because it's just got the one arena, and they run late. That's the beauty of these shows that have 2 or 3 show pens. They can get done soon enough in the day where you can actually school at a normal time. And for me, I just don't get up in the middle of the night anymore. I mean, if we can get in there by 11 o'clock or so, I'm good. I'll just stay up, and if I can stay up, I'm fine. But I mean, I get up at 4 o'clock, 4:30 to ride now during the summer, but at a horse show, I just don't. I don't know. I don't love it. I don't mind staying up, but.
Yeah, I'll get up in the middle of the night. I ride in the middle of the night quite a bit, just so it's not too crowded.
You ride in the middle of the night at the Redbud,
Yeah.
and you're the only one there.
Yeah, exactly.
You are
That's the best part. I get up in the middle of the night, and then, oh, look, Coliseum, totally empty, and then I just do paid warm-ups for hours by myself.
Yeah,
It's great.
You're strange, but that's.
I'm strange. Yes.
It sounds good. It does. I can see where that's a good idea, but yeah, you took that serious.
Was it different? Was Denver different this year with the COVID stuff?
Oh yeah, they checked our temperature every time we went through the gate. Even if you went to your horse trailer to get something, you had to get your temperature checked. And the state inspection came in, and we had to wear our mask even when we rode.
Even when you rode?
Yeah, they
Really?
they put that on us, and that was challenging. It was different, but we all got through it, and it all worked out.
Because I was at Waco the same weekend, and we didn't have to.
But now you got the band. You said you had the wristband, and you signed a waiver.
You had to go through the gate, sign a waiver, liability waiver, and take the wristband. You just had to show the wristband every time you came in. But I mean, you didn't have to wear a mask when you were supposed to wear a mask when you were in the office, but in the barn and in the arena riding, you didn't have to wear it.
Kate, what did they do in Virginia?
They took our tent every day in and out, same as Denver basically.
Same as Denver.
We all had to sign a liability, get a bracelet, and have our thing on. We were supposed to have a mask, nobody.
And they just shoot you with the little thing on your head.
Every time.
Yeah, when I was in Michigan with Carly was in Michigan the last month, and they did this. You had to have the masks on. At the cafeteria there, you go in to eat, and this poor girl at the cafeteria, she's got to scan everybody's head, and everybody's wearing a hat, and so she scanned my wrist. Well, you know what? My temperature was like 92. So, oh, you're good. I mean, it's like, I think that's not working, but okay, I'm gonna go in there. And then now she's in Lexington, Kentucky, and they even announced that you can't have two people in a golf cart.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's getting more
that's
strict
right. Yeah,
now.
you were saying that.
Even if you're married, you got to have two different golf carts.
Wow.
Which good for some people.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, honey. we got to ride separate.
Yeah, you got to stay here. I'm gonna go. Okay.
Exactly.
Walk along.
I mean, not my situation, but I'm sure somebody somewhere. So anyway, Mike, tell us. So how'd you get into So you started. Where'd you grow up?
In the mountains of North Carolina.
Okay. What got you into the horses? Was it a family thing?
Well, my uncle had horses. He was a doctor, and it was back when they could write everything off, basically before the tax laws in the 80s. And I'm sure you remember that. And in this area, when all those ranches came up for sale, it was right after the tax laws changed. But so he bought a lot of horses, raised a lot of babies, and my cousins and I we broke those horses every year, and we learned to get around the horse pretty good. And I got a pony at a very young age, and got it to where I could show it in open shows and 4-H shows, and wound up traveling around the state of North Carolina with doing all around events.
So you showed in everything.
Yeah, got into the AQHA later and showed in the same kind of classes all around. But when I was very young, I remember seeing Bill Horn and Paul Horn and Bob Anthony show in Raleigh, North Carolina one time, and I knew that's what I wanted to do, was train reining horses.
How old were you about then? Do you remember?
I was 12 or 13.
Really?
Yeah.
And you saw them guys and that's what.
Yeah, and I guess I was a little bit of a hillbilly rebel, and they had
that doesn't surprise
they
me.
had the dirty old saddles and doing the reining, and you could tell they were living the free spirit life, and it was really an attraction to me, and I wanted to ride the reining horses and be like those guys. So that's how it started, and
How'd you find your way to your first reining horse then? You said you had just horses.
I remember
Or the first horse you tried to do reining on. It
Yeah.
might not have been a reining horse.
I had an all-around horse, and we had stock horse classes when I was a kid, so I had learned some of the maneuvers and things, and they called it stock horse classes in the state 4-H shows. And then I found Charlie Hutton, who was in Georgia, and I had an all-around horse and rode with him some, and that's when I started doing the first real reining classes. And then a little later went to work for Bob Loomis for a while, and
He never mentioned you.
I don't remember. I didn't
He
remember
mentioned,
that. No.
he mentioned Mark Wagman working hard. He mentioned
Dean
Joe
Latimer.
Hayes working hard.
He
He
didn't-
mentioned Dean and Dwayne.
Yeah, I didn't ever mention you,
Your
Mike.
name ever
And I
came
didn't
up?
stay all that long, but Dean and Pat was there when I was there, and
Pat Wickenheiser?
But yeah, and I really, but I liked Bob. I still like Bob, and we have a good relationship. And
Yeah, well, after Dean, Dean's was his favorite,
Yeah.
was his child.
but it was a good education. Then I went back to North Carolina and wound up buying Bill Horn's place before he moved to Ocala, Florida. And
What year was that?
1994, I believe.
Well,
Was that the place? I went to your place one time out there. Was that the place where you were at then?
No, we built that place
Okay.
when you came there. It was pretty close to there, but I sold that place and built that place you came to from
What in the
scratch.
hell was I doing in North Carolina?
You were looking at a horse.
Probably looking at a horse.
Yeah, you tried the horse. I don't
adventure.
remember-
Yeah, that had to be.
Yes.
Well, that was
I don't-
vacation.
I don't remember
No.
which horse it was, but you came to ride a horse that was there.
Yeah, I remember being there, and I went to there. And then you were right around. There's a couple other. Was Mike Hancock close by or not too far?
Yeah, he's up Rocky Mount, which is about 45 minutes north, straight north of where we were. And Francois Gautier's there.
Yeah, I think I went to
And
Francois.
Brian Bell used to be there just 5 minutes from me, and when Brian Pace was alive, his place was there. we all used to really show against each other. Had some good competition there.
Yeah, it's crazy how that works. Like even here, everybody's like in one spot, and there everybody's in one spot, and you know the Wisconsin, Minnesota group, everybody's it's Arizona. I mean, it's kind of like that everywhere, right?
And when I bought that place, it was as much of a hub as here. You know, Loomis had came here, but I mean the East Coast was when Reining originated in Ohio. I mean the East Coast was kind of where it was for a long time, and it changed over the years, and that's why we eventually sold our place and decided to do something different.
Yeah, Willowbrook, and I mean the big Reinings were at Willowbrook, right? And that was Anthony, all the guys running for titles, you know, Anthony and Horn, and both the Horns. And
you used to come to the Carolina Classic, or what was then at first the Fun and Sun Derby, remember when they called it that, and that was the third largest, biggest payout in NRHA. It was the Futurity, the Derby, and at one time it was the Carolina Classic, or the Fun and Sun Derby.
Yeah, first I went with Little Rough Peppy, first time I ever went there.
I remember that.
Yeah, no, that was a fun horse show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that. So you went from, it wasn't very long ago, you left there and went to California, right?
Right, and we were planning on coming to Texas more or less at that time, and we decided, you know, the East Coast was had changed as far as just the shows and everything.
Well, you had a stud business too. I mean, what did shipping semen and the availability of getting semen all over the country, did that change your mind on that? Because you had a lot of studs you stood at one point in time.
We stood studs. We owned studs. We had different ones, but for sure it changed it. You know, it definitely made people breed the better studs, but I don't know that the mare power was really there enough to support it. And it takes both, and you guys for sure know that, but I think, you know, the ship semen definitely brought better horses everywhere. And then when the embryo transfers came along, you know, the mares that won 20,000, that used to be quite a big time mare, and that definitely changed. Now we have mares that have won number one earners 500,000, and the thing about that's good in our industry is are those mares breed true, and you know those are the horses that are really producing, and so that was a change, and everything was in this area, and we were going to move here at the time, but we didn't find what we wanted to buy, and we wound up, there was a ranch empty in California, and we wound up going out there, and of course, you guys know I like motorcycles, and that was an area that was always a big attraction, and we really had a good time out there while we were there.
Yeah, you were just a few minutes from where we were. I mean, that area is so pretty and such a nice place. Did you like California while you were there?
Oh yeah, the weather. I mean, training horses there, and met some great horsemen from the past. You know, that did the cow horse and different events, and learn more. You know, it's really neat. I mean, I know I watched the show with Bob, and it's really true. As we get older, I think you really learn. I think it comes together what you have learned, and then, you know, from people, you really kind of become a sponge again, and go through a second part of learning, and I feel like I've with the help of so many of my friends, have somewhat became a better trainer in the last few years.
Yeah. Well, and I remember, it was a couple of years ago, I went up to the Reining by the Bay. It's the only time I've ever been there, but you and I were walking around on horseback and talking, and you loved it out there. I mean, you really did like it out there. I was surprised that you actually came back to Texas, because it sounded like you loved every part of it. You loved the food and
Well, it's a great way of life, and but it is a long drive, and that lady where we were, who had to sell the ranch, and it wasn't feasible. We bought a house out there, and we were boarding horses, but with trying to do it on your own out there and the expenses compared to here where you're close to everything, it really didn't make sense. I mean, it was like getting a very, very big pay raise just to move back here. So,
And like we all say, everybody that's been somewhere else and then comes here, you can do more business here by accident than you can do on purpose almost anywhere else.
right.
Now, when I was in California, if I had a horse to sell, I'd call particular people just to fly out to try that horse, because you didn't just have people driving by
Right.
just to try horses. I'd have to call someone I know that worked for, or they knew they were looking, to bring them out, because it wasn't like here where like you said, it just happens on accident sometimes.
And you're working out of Fernando Salgado's place now.
Correct.
And, Fernando, he's always got stuff going on. He's always hustling and trading. And between him and Gunny and Cade, there's always, what do you call that?
The triangle of trust.
The
baby.
triangle of
Triangle of trust.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
Tom has a
Really?
word for
Team
it.
Triangle of trust.
About that.
48.
You guys gonna get tattoos?
Probably, but right now our logo is a circle, and it never hit me till recently that there's three of us. We're a tripod.
Oh, because it was a circle of trust before.
Correct.
They call it, because the three of them, they call it the triangle of trust. You know what I call it? The idiots that I have to put up with. That's what I call it. The three idiots that I have to deal with. Yeah, exactly.
Don't you worry. We'll sell you your next winner.
Before your logo. So was the logo a circle and you called it the triangle of trust, or was it the circle of trust?
No. It was the whole idea of being a circle of being whole and complete, and it was a symbol. It was symbolic, but now it's over time developed into.
It just wore out.
There's three of us. There's just three of us that make this work. Okay.
Gotcha.
Tom doesn't help us make it work.
Right.
You don't help us make it work.
Well, we would, but they don't ask us.
Yeah, I didn't know that there was an application process or anything.
Well, the Triangle Trust needs no help from you guys. Okay. And we're here to talk about Mike.
Yeah, sorry.
So
Got
y'all are
sidetracked.
getting off topic. I mean,
Well,
You-
going back though to what you said earlier about Mare power, and Mare's winning 20,000. That's a question I have all the time. Somebody will call me and say, "Hey, I got a mare. I want to sell her. She's won 20,000. What's she worth?" Well, anymore, there's 500 of those. I mean, it's not what it used to be. I remember when I first got into the stud business with Little Rough Peppy, I would go, I had customers that wanted mares. At one time I had 20 or 25 brood mares. I would buy every mare I could find that won 20,000.
You bet.
And now they're just, they're everywhere. Now if they won 20,000 and you want to sell them for more than 20,000, they got to be, they got to have color, or they got to be out of a great mare, or they got to have been injured at some point, and their
Or
career
already
cover
have
was
a
short, or already
produce
produced,
record,
or,
but
it's all of that. I mean, just a mare. Like if a mare's been to your house or your house or your horse and been hauled down the road and won 20,000, and she's been in a good program.
Well, and you may get a mare that hasn't won anything that produces. It's not saying that, but what I was saying is our mares that are the big money earners are usually the ones that are a sure gamble on getting a good horse.
100%. Well, what they always say, breed the best to the best and then hope for the best.
Yeah. And back to Fernando, you asked where I was at. I really enjoy riding there. I respect Fernando as a horseman, and it's really a good situation.
it's got to be fun because he just bought that place. He's got a whole mess of new customers. It's all still brand new for him. So it's got to be fun for you, just even to watch him hustle around there.
He's very motivated, and I just keep 10 or 12 horses. I don't want more than that. I'm limiting the numbers to that, and and I have one helper, and that's a kind of a stress relief to what the size business we used to have, and that's nice. I'm riding a few nice horses and enjoying it, and enjoying, riding with Fernando
And you may or may not be able to relate to this, and I've talked about this before and with these guys, and no knock against Dwayne. Dwayne and I are very good friends, but when Dwayne worked for me for a couple of years, I mean, it was two old guys that were sore by Friday. We were too flipping sore to ride, and we were, we both worked hard, we both put in long days, but there was a lot of, the whole mentality or the whole, thought process, it was just two old guys that have been doing this for a long time, and by the end of the week, we were sick of it,
Sure.
And when Fernando came, and I had Cade and Fernando, it took 10 years off my life. Not off the end. I mean, it made me 10 years younger.
Right.
Oh, yeah. It took it off the end.
Yeah.
It took it off the end.
Made me feel 10 years younger because it was fun. Those guys are so motivated.
Right.
And now Trent's there, and it's the same thing. Young guy that's so motivated. And I'm sure for you, it's the same thing.
Sure.
I mean, you're riding every day with a young guy that's just, and I've been around those guys. Cade, Gunny, you're not that young.
And there's no way I can keep up with Fernando. He rides 18 and
Crazy.
And our bodies won't take it for sure. But
it's fun to be around that enthusiasm.
It's fun to be around it and watch it, and it really does motivate me as well.
And he's a good trainer, and I've heard you talk to some of the best trainers in the business telling them what to do, and you're very good at giving advice. I mean, I think it's a great situation for him to have you there,
For sure.
Because
Well,
I'm not going to name names, but I've heard you talk to people about their futurity horse before they won the futurity on how to get it done.
Well, for all the advice I've given, I probably have gotten and continue to get more
for sure,
from Fernando as well.
for sure.
Okay. I'm learning from Fernando. I learn every day. And a guy told me one time that I worked for, when you're green, you're growing, and when you're ripe, you're rotten. And it's so true. Mm-hmm. And if you open your eyes and you take in and you learn, you'll really continue to get better in this. I don't care what age you are, and that's so important. And this business will pass you by so fast.
Yeah.
I've hit slumps. I've been up. I've been down in my career, but if you continue to learn, you will get better and do better.
We are gonna put that slogan on a T-shirt, and we're gonna pass them out. But Tom's is gonna have. I'm already rotten on it.
Well, that's right.
Yeah, rotten and smelly. Sorry, I gotta dig at somebody, right?
You gotta try sometime.
I gotta hurt somebody's feelings.
Sure.
Right.
Now you're on the judges committee, and you've been big into the judging for a long time. How did that help your career, but the learning phase, even in your training?
Well, I think I remember going to judge the Derby one year when I didn't have any Derby horses. They asked me to judge it, and I went to judge it, and this was years ago. And I went home thinking, I've got to put a little more on my horses everywhere. And every time I go judge, I think about what's good, what's not, and how we score our horses. And no matter what, I mean, if you're that tuned in as a judge and you're training horses, you're more aware of what it should look like. And that's where it helped me in my training. I've been on the committee for at least 15 years. I've been a judge for close to 30, I guess. But, it's been really good. And when I got on the committee, my goal was to to make it better and no other reason. I wanted to make it better. I felt like there were holes in the judging and I wasn't completely right. Some of the holes were my own, but I wanted to be involved in it. I wanted to try to make it better, and then when the first time they asked me to be chair of the committee, I turned them down. I just didn't have time. We were kind of in our move, and after we moved to California, I had enough time I felt like to put into it, and it's an ongoing process. It'll never end. I mean, our goal as a committee is to get the best judges with the most consistency throughout the whole world, and the judging be the same and consistent and very accurate.
It's got to be frustrating at times, though, because it seems like
That's what everybody complains
somebody always has a problem.
time.
Oh, they're too loose. Oh, they're too
Well,
tight.
and-
Oh, they're too this.
Yeah.
Oh,
But-
they're too that.
But sometimes,
I mean, I've never complained about it, but
but sometimes they're very legitimate complaints, and that's one thing I knew as going in as chair and being on the committee. You know, I always said I judged a couple of major events, and everybody give each other high five and go out of there and say we did great. Well, I was thinking maybe we did or maybe we didn't. Maybe we need to review some of this and see if we did or not, and try to come up with some ways to make it more educational, where everybody is treated very fairly when they walk through that gate. And I feel like we've gained a tremendous amount of ground, but like I said, it's an ongoing process that can't ever be taken lightly in this industry.
well, it's a different feeling too, being in that chair. I recently got my judge's card last year, so I've had mine for the second year now, and I had the pleasure of judging the Big Arab show earlier this year, and throughout the week, it seemed easy because we were judging a non-pro class, an amateur class, a this class, a that class. But when they turned the bright lights on and it was time for the serious class, I was nervous. I mean,
And should be.
Yeah.
I was
think.
nervous, and it was a different feeling to feel responsible for what's being showed to you and to come to a decision.
It's not
But-
easy.
It's not easy, but man, if you feel that nerves one time, I promise you take it into consideration the next time you get overmarked or undermarked. You go, well, okay. I mean, it's different when you're put on that spot. I mean, I could only imagine being one of the 12 judges for that run for the million, on judging 12 runs in one day in that spotlight without seeing the runs, without seeing 50 runs or 100 runs
warm
the
you up.
3 days before to get you in a rhythm.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine being one of those guys to make those decisions.
You know, I really hope that everybody that walks in there, and I'm sure the good judges do, and some don't, but I hope that everybody that walks in there and I'm not a judge, but what you just said, I hope everybody that walks in there and sits down in that chair understands the responsibility, because us as trainers know it's not just about that day, because that guy can be sitting there in an event with 3 judges. That guy can be sitting there and be low on you by a point and a half, 2 points, whatever the number. You miss the finals or winning a check by a half a point. And it's not about that even. It's about, okay, that client, we've all had to deal with clients that, hey, wait a minute, this is a good horse and you didn't win anything and you didn't make the finals, and there's such a domino effect.
That's all the ramifications from that decision.
100%. I mean, and if that judge just sits there and marks it the extra point or point and a half, like the other 2 guys, where it should be, and maybe he was right, maybe the other 2 guys were wrong, but whatever, as long as they're sitting down there understanding the ramifications and the domino effect of everything that it can affect about that poor guy's business. It may not mean much to to that judge marking this guy a 13, but that guy might be in level 1 and 2 and desperately trying to hold on to that client who wants to send it to one of the bigger guys, and he needs to make that finals. And he's trying, and he's, you know, I know you do, and I know you do, and you do. All you guys are judges, and I know you sit up there and you feel that, and you're humbled by that, because we all get up at 4:30 in the morning and ride those things all summer long, and all the work put into it, and all. It's not just showing up. It's not just walking in the pen that day. We all know what it takes to get there, and I think that's why you're more nervous, because you feel the responsibility of doing everybody there a good job.
For sure. For sure.
That's very true.
Yeah. Ann Salmon said that to me. She says she gets as nervous as she does judging is showing. It's the same deal. And I told her before I got my card, I was like, I don't really want to get my card because I don't want to screw up. She goes, that's why you need to get your card.
Yeah.
You need to know that it's that important.
Yeah.
You know, and I judged Denver last year, and it was. I mean, you sat up there and you made sure you watched everything.
Everything.
You know?
I absolutely got that nervous for
for
the half Arab fraternity class out there. I mean, it was big money. It was in the evening. The bright lights were on.
Yeah.
I was that nervous.
And the bottom line is, you're never, in any event that is opinion, it's not like, did he step out of bounds? Did he cross the goal line? There's a replay camera for that. And he did or he didn't. You know, those things are easy. But it's like, if it's a UFC fight or a figure skating or anything that's judged so much on personal preference, because everybody can like something different. And I think a horse, and I've always been, you know, talking to judges, I know that, you know, they don't all have to fit into that certain box to get scored, as long as they're doing the stuff. And I think that's where we run into sometimes the issues in the judging, is that's just not that guy's preference. And I don't really think you can change that. I mean, that is what it is. I mean, there's stuff I don't like that it's not going to bother you, and vice versa. And I think we're always going to deal with that, as does every sport that gets that their judges you know, judge off of what they think is a proper style. Or penalties, I think, should always be gotten right, obviously, right? But I think
With the judges' maneuver evaluation tape, they're supposed to be limiting what you just said. They're supposed to find this box when it looks like this, and this box when it looks like this, though.
Yeah.
One thing we have found, going back in our review, we're talking about maneuver scores and evaluation, but we'll see a horse and we'll think, oh, that's for sure a plus half. It can't even begin to be a zero, much less a minus half. And those are the ones we go back sometimes and review, and we'll see there was some resistance in that maneuver. And you can see why that judge did that, and just what you were saying. And that judge, it might have offended him a little more, or her, than the judge that plus that maneuver. And we see that, and sometimes it's you can see exactly why it happened. But then there's times where it should definitely be a credit earning maneuver, or you know, a minus maneuver. But
Do you think
all that we learn from a lot. We do a lot of review work.
Do you think that there's still times where horses are judged a little bit stereotypically before they walk in the pen? They know that Patriot has turned a +1.5 before, so he's the standard. So they've seen the standard. So if he turns good, it's a +1.5. When they've been on a tighter scale, do you think there's still a stereotyping in there, or do you think people are really good at judging it like it is?
I think some are better than others judging it, just, you know, where you see everybody with a brown horse and a brown paper bag over their head.
Yeah.
But no matter what, we're humans. And in those finals, when a real special horse walks in and the whole industry knows it, the judge might sit up on the edge of his seat a little bit. And we do all we can to educate our judges not to be that way, but sometimes I think it's unavoidable.
No, I agree 100%. I think that's the hardest thing. One of the things that I've seen lately, not everywhere, but more consistently, is where an event is judged from first horse to last horse more consistent. You know, where we've all been there in the past where we've watched a go around over 2 days,
And there was runs of tights and runs of loose.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the second day. I mean, I've been at a major event where the second day of the open go around, you're just like, what are they doing?
Looks like a whole new set of judges.
It's every run's you're sitting on the bubble with a 21. That was a pretty damn good run. 10 horses in the first day, and every single run's marking a 22, 22, 23, 22. I mean, it's just like, what you get so frustrated that you want to have a BB gun there and shoot paint gun and paintball, whatever, and shoot it at those judges. Their BB.
Well, and one of the improvements that has really helped that is having a monitor at our bigger shows, and we do look at runs during the event.
I think that's fantastic.
Before the class starts, the next day we say, okay, yesterday morning, here's what you showed me was a 210. Here's what you marked a 210, and here's what you marked a 220. And then we go into that day, and we do more at lunch and then in the evening after.
I think that's great. So you keep grounding yourself back to what that was the 15 or the 20 or the 10.
And I think it's good to have somebody that's not just focused on plus half, zero, plus tunnel visioned in the moment. Somebody looking back from a different picture, saying, "Guys, we need to look at this run. Y'all missed a little," or "Guys, come look at this." I think that's why it's helped, because they, if they.
And we now have, we're encouraging our judges to use it, but on the NRHA website we have some prep work for the judges before they go judge a show. Mm-hmm. Some of our judges won't judge for maybe 6 months.
Especially this year.
They get, exactly. And they get hired to judge a show. Nobody's there to prepare them and show them work, but we encourage them to judge some runs before they go judge a show and be ready for that first horse when they sit down in the chair.
We absolutely used it before we judged our deal in February, because Sebastian been a judge for 15 years, but me and Mike have only been a judge for 2 years. So
Sebastian Petro, and who was Mike?
Mike Berg.
Berg, okay.
So we, to try to get in a rhythm together and talk it out loud, it helped us use that deal. So
so we're continuing education and getting the educational work available to our judges is a very big deal, and we've made some big steps in that direction, and we're hoping we continue to see.
I think without a doubt it's got better. And now those guys have to look at so many horses that can do so much. I mean, you remember when 20 years ago there was those guys, Tim, and I don't know if BH was still rolling, probably 20 years ago. Tim, BH, there was Craig Johnson, that group of guys, maybe 25 years ago, all they had to do is just stay on pattern. And they were in the finals. You remember that? You knew they were going to
only be 5 extraordinary horses.
Right.
Yeah. And it was easy to judge those, just like you said. But now we've got 150 or 200 horses at the Futurity and the Derby, the NRBC that are at an extremely high level. We have to separate them.
Yeah.
So that's why, sometimes I think the judges catch more flack. They're not getting them separated quite as good as they should.
Well, I mean,
but we've got to get better with the horses and the training as judges.
The Derby, I mean, they took 38 or 39 to a 30 horse final.
Yeah.
So it's a testament to how much harder it is to judge, because there's that many better horses. And
we talked a little bit about that before, and I think personally, it's my own personal opinion, is they had a good group of judges there that just didn't use the whole system.
They were tight that week.
And
so it was easy to bunch them up to get 38 or 39.
And if you made a mistake, you could not. If you made a mistake turning or circling or whatever, you could not make it up later on by doing a big maneuver. I mean, it was really, you were if you made a mistake, you were basically out of the reining. And so don't make a mistake, right? I mean, okay, they're still going to be, no matter what, no matter how they judge, how tight they judge, if they just do zeros and minus halves, there's still going to be 30 or more horses in the finals. So just be one of those 30. I mean, I'm not using that as an excuse for anybody. I'm just saying, we knew after 20 horses, that was kind of how it was going to be. So you got to go out there and not make mistakes. However, I think there was probably some horses that didn't advance that maybe could have, because they did some big maneuvers and didn't, get all the way through.
And here's what Tom's saying is, a horse might have a spin penalty by half and make it up with possible, for instance, +1 stops, but only got halves, plus halves for those stops. And he could just beat
Right.
to a 216. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
And I agree with you. That's unfortunately seemed to be what happened at the Derby, and we're in the process of doing the review work from the Derby, and the committee will be going over that with those judges, and hopefully some education and be better with that in the future. Because another thing that happens when the set of judges are being conservative, we'll get, let's say, 2 judges we went back and looked at the sheets, might plus half the spins. Well, then they feel like they're going to be a little high on this horse, and they zero the circles, where the other 2 or 3 judges plus half the circles, and they come up with the same score, but they got there very differently.
Yeah, you owe me on the next maneuver. Type.
Yeah, so if they're using the scale and they're paying them when it's there, they're more consistent, they separate their horses better, and that might be why there was probably, I think there was 39 or something go to the finals, and they had them bunched together.
You know who wasn't one of those? I wasn't. I was a half point short, but
Of the 4.
yeah, I had me a little spin penalty.
Yeah. Tom didn't make the 4 either, did you?
No, I didn't
No,
make
you
the
were,
4.
but you made the 3.
How many?
Didn't know he made the 3.
How many did you make the finals on there?
I made two in the 3.
Right?
Yeah,
And I had 1, and then you had 1.
I had a spin penalty.
But you were in the 3 though.
Yeah, but I had a spin. I mean, it was a spin
Yeah,
penalty.
but so you would have made it. Right.
Would have.
Yeah, I'm sitting there at lunch after I showed my second horse, and Mandy's making a list of horses to send home, and I said, well, I guess you can send mine home. She says, no, you're in level 3. I completely forgot that I was in the level 3.
But you were pretty excited about it. You were like, yeah, I forgot about that.
I
I'm so
was-
excited to be level 3 this year.
I was absolutely not excited about it.
Because the last time they had the level 3, there wasn't a level 3, right? I mean, when you were eligible for it,
There were no levels. I was not.
You were a limited open guy.
25 years ago was the last time I was in anything other than level 4.
That's on. Good for you.
That's a good run, Tom. That's a good run.
That's
Hey,
way good.
cheers to Tom's 25-year run.
Yeah, level 3.
Sorry,
Way to join the level
sorry,
3.
sorry it ended prematurely.
Yeah. I'm going to make another run for a couple of years here.
Yeah.
You need to talk to Mandy about that first.
Yeah, exactly.
Old dream crusher.
Little dream crusher. I don't know.
That's funny.
That's
good
for
stuff.
sure. All right.
What? Prime time too. I forgot about that.
Well,
was
I can't do anything about that.
Yeah, that's
The
pretty good.
level 3, I'm a little disappointed in myself, but the prime time,
You could get back on a committee and change the age bracket for that.
I tried. Before I got there, I tried real hard to change that age to 60, but they wouldn't have it. They wouldn't have it. But I think seriously, on a serious note, I think that should be addressed again, because there's that whole group now of guys. It used to be, Tim and
Brent
Wright were the
They were
only
first
guy.
and second, first every year.
Yeah,
for sure.
and now there's a whole group of guys kind of aging into that obviously are. I mean, Mike just won Denver.
Did you win the primetime?
Mike's
They
older
didn't
than
have a
me.
prime time, did
Mike, did you win the primetime in Denver?
Yes.
They had a primetime there?
Did you get a bump?
No, they didn't have a problem.
Oh, see, Mike didn't win the primetime
Yeah,
there,
there
Tom.
wasn't. There
I
wasn't.
was, but let's not
I
bring up
wasn't
the
talking about
primetime
the
in
prime.
Denver.
I was just talking about being a competitive, being a top level 4 guy. And I think Mike's a couple years older than I am. So, Mike, I look up to Mike.
We all look up to Mike. That's why Mike's here.
Exactly. Mike's a
I look
friend.
up to you guys.
Mike's a friend of the show.
Mike, are you in the Hall of Fame?
No.
You will be.
What about? So tell us about the motorcycle ride. That's something you did as a kid.
On the ranch, I showed horses, and I had a little motorcycle on the family farm, and I wanted to race, but my dad wouldn't let me. But when I turned 16, I quit showing horses. I kept riding, but I went racing for 5 years, and then I got back into the horses really strong. Felt like I should be training horses, and I quit riding, and I didn't ride for 18 years. And Craig Schmerzel, I did good at the fraternity one year, and Craig was living in California, and he told me like 3 years in a row, you need to come out and ride with me.
You didn't ride bikes for 18 years.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I said, all right, I'm coming. And I bought a used bike out there, went out there and stayed a week, and started riding again. And that was about 15 years ago or 16 years ago. And I've been riding since. And in California and here, there's some vet racing, they call it the Over the Hill Gang in California. But it's
Prime time.
Yeah.
It's prime time.
So you race competitively once in a while here?
Yeah, I still race some. But
I think that's got to be that's got to help your horse training too, though. I would think because it's
as long as you
physical.
don't get hurt.
Yeah, don't get hurt.
But it's
Now
no,
you broke your collarbone or arm or something not too long ago, right?
Well, no, that was probably
10 years ago.
Yeah, I guess
almost
so.
10 years ago, but it was before the NRBC, and yeah, we were out riding,
And that horse made the finals.
but
With somebody else,
You know,
didn't it?
I've had as many friends get hurt. You know, Bub Poplin fell off his horse, or it fell down with him, and he hit the ground and cracked his pelvis or hip in Denver before he got to show his horse. But I've had a lot of friends get hurt with horses too.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm careful, try to be careful when I ride, but I enjoy it. It's a good.
It's a workout, isn't it?
Oh yeah, you have to be fairly fit, and it is a workout.
Think Gunny could be a rider?
Dude, I'm going into skateboarding. Let's not talk about
That's
that.
right. Let's talk about that.
I'm gonna learn to kickflip. Okay.
Oh yeah, he wants to kickflip really bad because somebody
I'm gonna learn
kickflipped.
to skateboard again.
I know you're athletic.
Yeah.
He is a good athlete,
I
actually.
used to be a better athlete.
Yeah, he is a good athlete.
I
Good,
used to be better.
Good ping pong player, second best ping pong player I know. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Kate's pretty good now.
Good beer bong player or beer pong.
Nah, dude, I'm not into that beer though. I'm into that Crown Royale.
Well, there was a eating establishment you asked him about earlier?
Yeah, Bojangles.
Bojangles.
Yeah.
Where was that at?
Well, I went to North Carolina recently to ride with Josiane Gautier, and you guys were talking about places. I'm going to get a little sidetracked, but she recently bought that place that her dad trained at, and it was Dick Peeper's old place. It was very neat to see that place, and very neat to see the history in that place. You
There's
know,
a lot of history.
they still got the same horseshoer that's been there forever. And to see some of the shoes in his shop that have been on just famous reiners is really neat. But yeah, you know, driving around, you see, you know, McDonald's drive-thru's empty and this one's empty. But this Bojangles place, there's a line out the there's a line of cars out the door and just around the whole building. You ever eat there? I mean, is it pretty good?
Yeah.
Pretty good.
My daughter went to Texas A&M, and when she went to college, she called me and she said, "There's no Bojangles here." But yeah, we liked our biscuits and
I'm gonna have to go back.
gravy,
I just didn't
sausage
want.
and gravy
biscuits and
biscuits
gravy,
and
I didn't
ham
want
and
to
egg
sit in
biscuits.
line, man. I didn't want to sit in that line, so I never sat in that line.
Yeah, you know, I felt that. When you talk about the history, I went to that place too. But going to your place, and I mean, that was a while ago.
Right.
And driving around to those places out there, you could just kind of feel that history that was out there. It was cool for me to go. I only went that one time, but it's pretty country
I'll
too.
tell you a story about, it was Bill Horn, I know, and Rick Weaver, and maybe Bill Waterman, and I don't know who else, but there was a judges school at the ranch, the ranch Josie Ann bought when Dick Pieper was there, and Dick Pieper was holding the school. And he had a reel-to-reel projector to show some Reining runs on.
Wow.
And he couldn't get it to work. So he said, "Oh, to hell with it." And he opened a bottle of Crown Royal and said, "Y'all are all judges," and they went to drink. So that was one of the first judges schools.
That's pretty cool.
And that was at that ranch.
That's pretty cool. It was a neat place. It was really neat. It was beautiful to see. I mean, 150-foot tall trees. I think they were 150 foot. They're probably half that, but big old tall trees everywhere. And
It was cool, and I could, like I said, you could kind of sense that because growing up as a kid, we read the Rainer cover to cover when I was a kid, and there was so much stuff from that area, in every Rainer. There was so many guys and so much stuff and so many rein-ins, and it was.
And we used to get people at one time living there in eastern North Carolina. People would fly in from Europe to look at horses, and people we didn't know. It was.
They just came there for you guys.
It was an area of traffic for a while, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But we had some good times back there. And you and I were talking earlier about how far this industry's came. When we think about some of those old stories, it's just it's really amazing where the sales and the quality of horses, the number of the guys that can train a horse to a high level. It's it's like you and I, and to a certain extent these guys have been around for a while. But we were in this industry when there was really no money to be made in it. I mean, you could make a living, but you weren't going to make a lot of money in it. And then these guys are kind of in the middle of that, where they're still younger and they've seen what we've done. They've worked for guys like us. They've done their own deal now, but they're seeing what's happening. And then you've got Cade. Like the whole industry, it's like a video game to him. I mean, it's just working, right? I mean, everything is from the time he's 18 years old, it's just firing on all cylinders. And he at 20, he's got better clients as a group. I've had fantastic clients through my life, mostly one at a time. He has a group of better clients than all the clients. As when I say better, I don't mean better people. I mean better, like people that are willing to step up and play in this industry.
They'll go fire on a big time horse at the batter of an eye.
Yeah, exactly. He's a phone call away from, going out and buying some of the best horses in the industry if he wants them. That wasn't something you and I could do. That wasn't something these guys could do. Mm-hmm. And Gunny's got himself to that point now. He's
not to that point, but it's good. It's good. We can make a lot of horses, and we can make a lot of money with them horses. It's work, but it's a lot easier than it used to be.
And it's a lot more fun when it's making money. It's a lot more fun
when it's making this much money, a lot of money.
Yeah, and
it's serious money.
And it gives you, to me anyway, it gives a legitimacy and a real meaning to what we're doing. Yeah. Because, believe me, there's plenty of times, and you and I have sat there at 3 o'clock in the morning on the rail, scratching our head thinking this is kind of a silly thing to be doing for a living, right?
Oh yeah.
But now, I mean,
it can justify why we do it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And there's times, I mean, we used to do it when I started doing it, and you and all of us, we just wanted to ride a horse.
Yep.
I'd ride a horse at any cost. I'd ride one for free to get to ride. I wanted to ride all day, all the time. I just wanted to ride. And I think we were all like that. But as we get older and we have to pay the bills and things come along, and it can be a stressful, hard life. Obviously, I mean it's, but when it justifies it, it's very rewarding, and it can be a lot of fun. And we can make a living doing it.
Now, along those lines, we had a question, and they were asking, what advice would you give, like a trainer and a non-pro getting into this, or trying to build a business, or even showing? What would advice you'd be given?
Well, I mean, you can go on and on, obviously, but I think a young trainer has to set himself up with the best horses he can and not get too big of an overhead. I think that's very important. I mean, you can't borrow more money than you can bring in, but I think it's those are the things a young trainer has to do, and try to get the right clients around him, just what you were saying, to be able to afford the livestock, and then get the most knowledge. I learned from riding. I remember one time I was thinking about just the other day when I was at the fraternity one year. I found Bob Avila riding down it was Barn 9.
Barn 9, oh yeah.
And found him down there one morning about
The chicken coop
5
down there.
o'clock in the morning. He'd go down there and ride, and I guess I didn't know better, but I just started asking him for help, and he looked at me kind of funny that first morning. Well, the next morning I was down there waiting on him. When he came in there, I thought he might be there again, and I asked him, and by the end of the week, he helped me all week. And I mean, Tim's helped me tremendously at times. I catch rode a couple of horses for him for the fraternity, put one in the finals, I remember, that Jerry Kimmel owned, and Tim's been, I mean, BH obviously helped me. I rode with him, I played golf with him, but back to where I'm going, a young guy should get the most help and knowledge from the good guys, the guys that can do it, and that goes a long ways. And then as far as a non-pro, I think riding with the good trainers, buying the horse and listening to what the trainer says. I'm amazed. I've tried to send horses home before, and they don't want to take them home.
Or say, hey, we need to get rid of this one. No,
or they keep, I call it beating a dead horse, but if I think a non-pro should listen to whoever trainer they choose, and if they feel like it's just not working, maybe change trainers. But if for whatever reason, whether it's a personality conflict or whatever, but these horses are they have to work, and they have to be something that we all want to ride through the gate on. I remember Jose Vasquez told me one time when I was young, he said, don't ever forget you're in the show horse business. And when you get on something at home, it needs to be something you want to ride through the gate. And whether you're a non-pro or an open rider, we're only as good as what we can put our leg over in. And livestock's so important. Mm-hmm. And there's people that can afford or will afford or whatever different quality of horses, but the most horse you can comfortably purchase is the one that'll probably you'll do the best on.
Yeah, well, for sure.
But surrounding yourself with the right people and the right horses is the best advice I can give, I think.
Yeah, and
Listening.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, and so many opportunities for a young guy that wants to get into the horse business today, because it was different there. Who were we going to go to work for when we were trying to get into it? There was maybe 3 or 4 guys.
Right.
And now, and those 3 or 4 guys had just enough horses for them to show. Now there's a whole bunch of top end trainers, and when we were started, there was one level. I mean, there was just one level. So the assistant trainers or the young guys, apprentices, whatever, they had to show in the same classes as the open guys. Now there's so many divisions, and there's so many top end trainers out there that are craving a good assistant trainer, and a good assistant trainer can now actually make enough money where they can live. They might even be able to go buy a steak somewhere, on Friday night and take the girlfriend out. And that wasn't the case. It was a lot of work and no money, and there wasn't a lot of opportunities.
Other than working for Tom, I had nothing but the best working for him.
Yeah.
And that brings us to something, I've been thinking some lately about these divisions. I think, to me, I've thought about it, and I think, and I don't want to be on the eligibility committee, and I don't want to get involved in that.
Oh yeah, you're gonna make Facebook angry.
But I think we should have a level 2 and a level 3 and a 4, and the 2 don't pay too much, but it has nice prizes. It has a decent prize money, but I don't think those horses should be able to win more money than that level 4 horse that marks a 219 and don't make the finals too often. It might win a little more, but a lot more, I think it got off balance there.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And I still think at our futurity, if we could make our semifinals pay $10,000 to make the semifinals, because that's really what it should pay. I mean, if we look at, in a Western saddle, probably our biggest competitor is the cutting horse business as far as judged events. And, their semifinals, I believe, pays $10,000, maybe more, maybe 12. But I think that our semifinals needs to do that because, to be 75th and make the semifinals, I can remember growing up, we had cutting horses and whoever from our area, and nobody ever did. My dad did good a couple of times. You go down to Fort Worth, if you made the semifinals, you could be last in the semifinals and you were the king of the mountain in Minnesota. And I think that would help grow this industry everywhere if that semifinals paid enough to where it could start offsetting some expenses. Right. And I think that, personally, I think that would be a really big boom for the industry. And I know that's what we've tried to do with the NRBC is, I'm on the board of the NRBC, and that's been our goal from the start, is make sure every finalist gets $10,000 for making the finals of the level 4, because that's a big deal. And
and I think some trainers get in a comfort zone, back to the eligibility, but I think they get in a comfort zone at being in those lower levels, where when we came along, there was $1,000 added limited open, and then you had the level, or it was called just limited open and open, but you had the open. And we had to strive to be in the open if we wanted to win any decent money.
Right.
Mike, some people now take a year off of showing so they can bump down a level because there's so much money in those lower levels.
Yeah.
I mean, some people use it to their advantage, which is a good thing, but where the eligibility lays, it's full of not the whole truth, It's full of people manipulating it, so.
Yeah, and I get it. I get every side of it, because I also get trying to add enough money to where the level 2 guys and the level 1 guys can win enough money where their clients can keep sending horses to the horse shows.
And they're the young and up and coming ones,
And that's really, to me, that's really the group that we have to keep going in the horse business, is that younger generation, and keep helping them build. And because that's really, obviously it's cliche, but that's the future,
Sure.
Those are the guys. So I see both sides of that, and
Well, I think you can help them, and there's a balance. I mean, they definitely need to be able to win some money and go, but they also need to be striving to be
in the level 4.
reaching for that top.
yeah. So, and I know trainers that sit out a year to drop down on a level 3, and that is so foreign to my thinking. If I could have found out after the futurity, I'm in the finals for the futurity and didn't do very good in the finals, so I knew I wasn't going to be a level 4 guy. If there had been another horse show somewhere before the end of the year, I'd have went to it, because the idea of dropping down to the level 3 it crushed me. I mean, I hate it. I hate it. And it's a good division. I like it. I'm happy. I mean, I've won money in it this year, and it's fine. I'm happy to have the money. But my mentality, I want the hell out. I want out this year, and I don't want to come back in for a long time. You know, that's just how I think.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, if you're in the level 4, you won a lot of money. You're in there because you won the money, and you continue to win money. So,
all right. Well,
I'm in the level 3 this year, too.
Yeah, me too.
No, we're in the we're a couple level 3 guys.
are you our only level 4 rider here today?
I'm in level 3
Yeah,
this
he's
year.
3 too.
A whole group of
I'm back
level
in.
3 guys.
Yeah, I think Kato. Kato's the only level 3 right here.
That's why he's
The
sitting.
20-year-old.
That's
Yeah.
why he's sitting over there. Yeah. All right. Well, Mike, thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.
We
Yeah.
got some good info. Yeah,
And we'll definitely have you back on. We could go for another hour, but
yeah.
you know, people don't like watching us that long. So.
Yeah.
But people do like the info. I've gotten a lot of compliments from the information that feedback. People like the info. So
For sure. So, anybody watching the videos, help us grow it. We love doing it. We have a lot of fun. We have great guests, and you know, people we really enjoy having on. Comment, like, share, anything you can do to help us grow it. We really appreciate it.
send Reining flops.
Send Reining flops. Private message us Reining flops, so not everybody else can see them before we show them, and we'll try to start going over Reining flops more often.
We'll send out more hats.
Yeah, we'll send up more hats, and we'll go over them with our guests, and well, it'll be fun.
Grow the show.